Yes, Mehtab,
Sir,
can you
okay.
hear me?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I
Okay.
can hear you.
Uh,
There's no,
Good evening, Mehtab. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. Its voice is very clear, and it's very good to
Inshallah, this will be
have this
a
opportunity to listen this talk from you, sir.
okay. Inshallah, this will be a good recording, and hopefully, people will like it. And the thing is, we have completed something about lung injury strategy in our last talk, and this is our the obstructive part. I mean, what we are planning today is to go for a recap of that lung injury strategy, and go ahead as short as possible for the obstructive lung ventilation group. Are you there, Mehtab?
Yes, sir. I'm listening to you clearly.
Okay,
Your
very
voice is
nice.
very
Okay,
clear.
anytime you want, you have a question, you can stop me or ask me, and so that I feel that somebody is there listening. I'm not talking to my computer. All right.
I understand, sir. Thank
Okay.
you.
Now, now here is some of my concept of ventilation. Now, is a ventilation a good thing or a bad thing? Uh, now it's not as good as we think. Most of the time, we put a patient on a ventilator, intubate them, and put on ventilator, and think that they will get rectified or they will be cured. So this is absolutely not true. I mean, see, ventilation is something we are just buying time. I mean, we are buying time to treat the underlying pathology. None of the patient in this world has ever get any benefit directly from ventilation, right? So basically, we are buying time to to rectify the underlying pathology. Say it be obstruction, say it be lung injuries. Most of the time, okay. There is nothing called a therapeutic ventilation. So basically, as soon as possible, we should liberate that patient who is on ventilator. That should be our aim. A ventilator comes with a badness which is not visible, which is slow. So, what are those fancy terms? Biotrauma, atlectotrauma, volutrauma, barotrauma. All those things we know. I am not going to bore with you, bore you with that. So, basically, what I am going to do is, so it's not always a good thing. So, and most of the thing, why it is not good thing? See, basically, it's not good or bad. So, ventilation or positive pressure ventilation is completely unphysiological. Now, why is that? Number one, we breathe negative pressure ventilation, right? We inhale with creating a negative pressure, and ventilator gives a positive pressure breath. Now, each breath of human is completely unique, huh? And no matter what, there will not be any ventilator in future which will match our neurology. I mean, each breath is different. Now, the sake of understanding, I would say, just take a deep breath. Just it will give you more oxygen to understand this. So take a deep breath and exhale normally. Okay. So what happened? Now initially you took a large gush of air which slowed down gradually with a smooth ending, and the inspiration changed to expiration without any problem, without any gross warning, right? So this doesn't happen with any kind of ventilator, you know. So think of it. Now, ventilator breaths are factory made breaths. Everything is fixed. We say SIMV, synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation. Let me tell you, there is nothing called a synchronous ventilation with ventilator. As I said, it's a positive pressure, first of all. It's we completely opposite physiology. What synchronization they will make? I mean, nothing. And secondly, ventilator breaths are fixed. Everything is fixed. Now, tidal volume is fixed. We don't breathe with a fixed tidal volume. Sometimes we breathe a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. So, ventilator, suppose you fix a volume control mode or a pressure control mode. No matter if you don't want to take, the ventilator will say, tough. No, you have to take it, right? So, you have to take this much amount of breath. Even if you want 420 ml of breath, it will give you 480 or 450, whatever you have said. So, it's not a absolute. It's not listening to you. So, again, a tidal volume desynchrony. Initiation part, we say like, okay, so it will read the initiating breath and it will give at that time synchronize with even NAVA. Forget about flow initiation or pressure initiation. Neurally adjusted ventilatory assist, which they claim that this is going to decrease a lot of asynchrony and all. That is also having a fraction of millisecond delay, right? Now, tidal volume is fixed. Now, flow rate is also fixed. As we said, we took a very large breath initially, which slowed down, and there is a transition from inspiration to expiration. It never happens with ventilator. Even if you give a deceleration flow, ventilator deceleration flow is also fixed. We don't breathe like that. Suppose a next breath of the patient want 515 ml of breath. The ventilator will say, tough, no, you have to breathe 450 ml. What is fixed in that ventilator? So many desynchrony. Flow desynchrony, time desynchrony, initiation desynchrony. What synchronization we are talking about? There is nothing which is synchronizes. So basically, opposite physiology, lots of desynchrony. So ultimately, it's not a good thing. And moreover, positive pressures with all these volume issues, and we might compensate, but thing is that in a gradual course of time, slowly, all those things will show up. So, basically, this is what I think about the ventilator. Everybody should think the same, and there is nothing wrong I am saying. About ventilation lecture, whenever you go to a talk, that seems to be very interesting, and ultimately you come out with confused with a lot of equations and permutation combinations. End of the story is 0. So out of all these equations of ventilations and all those things, I would like to give you only one. You should remember only one equation. If you want to remember, it's very difficult to go for a podcast and telling about equation. But you should remember this equation. This is peak inspiratory pressure. What is peak inspiratory pressure? If you want to fancy about any calculation, mathematics and all those things, peak inspiratory pressure, you should remember how it is mathematically derived. Now, peak inspiratory pressure is equal to tidal volume over compliance plus flow times resistance. So, basically, tidal volume divided by compliance plus flow times resistance. So, from this equation, you can calculate all your ventilatory strategies, So, basically, just try to remember this equation. I will put it in forum, but if anybody fancy about equation and mathematics, how physics and all, this is the only equation you should remember. Inside this equation, there are a lot of minor equations like Pausely's law, Bernoulli's theories, and all those things are there. So, this is what I suggest as a ventilation a theory. So, this is what I always try to remember.
Dr. Piyush, if I can stop you for one second.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
One small comment. I think it is a little unrelated to the today's talk, but I think it is
absolutely.
A little important.
This is unrelated. Just I am trying to recap the.
No, not your talk, sir. Your talk is absolutely related. The comment that I want to make is a little off the topic, but it's still in the same category, broad category.
Okay.
I think first of all, I think this needs a little re-emphasis that what you said in the beginning, that ventilation is not as such a treatment for any disease.
Yeah.
It is just buying a time. It's a very important point that you mentioned. I think it needs. I thought it's better that we emphasize this. And the
Okay.
second thing is that as you're talking about the harmful effects of the ventilation, I think we should also include the objects that we need to ventilate the patient, like endotracheal tube, and the
Yes.
problems associated with that, which complicate the matters further. Like when you keep the tube inside, you are damaging the vocal cords. You cannot clear the secretions. You have to do repeated suctions, which
Absolutely,
causing
Mehta.
trauma.
Absolutely, Mehta.
All this. It's a little unrelated, but I thought
No, 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 no. They
all
are
also
related. You know, your endotracheal tube,
yes, sir.
aspiration, VAP prophylaxis,
Yes,
suctioning, oral care, all those things. You know, the VAP is a big strategy. You know, we are working over the, I mean, VAP theory, and you know, so those things. And a foreign body is into a neck, plastic into your throat. It's not a good thing, and they cause infection. Any plastic in the body.
yes,
So lots of badness are there. So just to cut it short, yes, what you are saying is absolutely very important. It is related to this topic. Sorry that I did not give the importance to that, but it is quite important. So, Mehtab, so we will concentrate on the talk proper. This is the 5-10 minutes review, whatever we have given now. And so let me go back to our previous talk, what we spoke about ventilation strategies. As I have said, there are only two kinds of lung in whole wide world. So, two kinds of diseases. So, you should have two strategies with two goals, okay? And to understand, to achieve all these goals, you need only four knobs, all right? This is what we spoke about last time, right? In lung injury, tidal volume is for lung protection, inspiratory flow rate is for comfort, respiratory rate equals to ventilation, and PEEP and FiO2 is one knob, right? So they are for oxygenation.
yes, sir.
Okay. So, so as I said, ventilation never has cured any disease. It's only you only buy some time to. Hello.
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Sir.
Okay, okay. I think there were some disturbances. Anyways, so you know, we can talk about different kinds of modes. They are good. They are very good. I mean, you can talk about high frequency oscillatory ventilation, APRB, but for understanding purposes, for better understanding, because from that mode you derive the other modes, it will be easier. So basically, again, from assist control volume mode, all right. So as we said that the lung injury part, so basically, to understand just this concept that we don't need 500 ml or 10 ml per kg body weight of tidal volume, we took 50 years, right? We were injuring our patients. So it is ArdsNet which showed the mortality benefit of any kind of ventilation by giving a smaller tidal volume. They have recommended 6 to 8 ml of tidal volume per ideal body weight, per kg of ideal body weight. A guy might be 500 pounds, but if his height is 5'6", he is probably 60 kg, right? So 60 kg is 600 ml, 6 ml per tidal volume. So he requires like 360 ml of tidal volume if you are going to ventilate them with 6 ml per kg body weight. So since we are talking about obstruction strategy, which carries obstruction strategy, which says asthmatic or COPD varieties of patient. So when we think of this, then what is our goal? Like last time we said like we have only 4 parameters to change, which each whether it is a whether it is a COPD or lung, or lung injury type of lung. So the goals and knobs, the knobs are the same. We have only 4 knobs again to again for the COPD type of ventilation. Same vital tidal volume, inspiratory flow rate, respiratory rate, and FiO2. So so basically we will. I think Mohan is trying to come in. Mohan.
Yes, one is already there.
Okay, Mohan, we are halfway through the discussion, so just be online, and if you have any questions, you can jump in anytime. So basically, what I was saying is there are only 2 types of lung. One is lung injury type of lung, one is obstructive type. You have 4 knobs to play with, and the goals are a little bit different. What is the goal of a ventilating obstructive strategy? I mean, obstructive lung or COPD or asthmatic lung. The goal is to give them the time to breathe out. This is the only goal. This is the only, if you understand this goal, you are golden. I mean, the only goal in a COPD or a bronchial asthmatic is to give them time to breathe out. So basically, the expiratory time or the total breathing time and the expiration, you have to give them the time. So when we are going to ventilate this COPD or asthmatic guys, so most of the time, 99% of the time, you will get away with them. I mean, try with a little bit of BiPAP, if you're nebulization and some of bronchodilators, hydrocortisone. So basically, they will get away with 99% of the time. We are talking about those 1%. They are so sick and tired that they cannot breathe because they have exhausted all their muscular energy. So that is why they are buying a tube. They are getting intubated, and for them, this particular strategy, what extra we should know how to ventilate them. So basically, again the 4 dial: tidal volume, inspiratory flow rate, respiratory rate, and FiO2. Now, what is the tidal volume here? Now, tidal volume and here is their lung is not so injured. They might be, but if they are not injured, they are not having a florid pneumonia, then you can go up with your 8 ml per kg body weight, higher than those 6 to 8 ml. I mean 8 ml per kg body weight. You can argue that why can't we give 10 ml? See, basically there is ample of data. 10 ml is bad. I can put it in the forum that if lung injury is not there, they are pure COPD or asthmatic. If you ventilate them to 10 to 12 ml of tidal volume, they will be lung injured next day. So why to do it? So basically 8 ml of kg body weight of ideal body weight. I mean of ideal body weight. So you know that ideal body weight, how it is calculated, right? So it is the formula, I think it is there in the show notes. It's 50 plus 2.3 into the height over 5 feet. Suppose this patient is 5 feet 5 inches. So 2.3 into 5 is equal to whatever is plus 50. His weight would be around 64, 66, like that. So 66, 6 ml or 8 ml, it comes down even lower. So basically, the tidal volume is much less than what we used to ventilate previously. So how much tidal volume? Tidal volume, we said it is for lung protection. Suppose we know that this patient's putting him on 500 ml tidal volume, he is 6 footer like Mohan, and so he is generating a peak pressure of 100. Let me tell you, peak pressure of 100 tells you nothing. It is not at all harmful. What matters is plateau pressure. You all know that how to calculate the plateau pressure. This is not the peak pressure. You have to have an inspiratory flow button hold to calculate the plateau pressure. If you don't know, call the respiratory. They will do it for you. And once or twice they show you. The next time you are golden, you can do it yourself. our goal, whatever tidal volume we are giving, to keep the plateau pressure around 30. All right. So if you are going to keep your plateau pressure around 30, you will be far away from your barotrauma or the pneumothorax part. Now, the tidal volume part is not so controversial in COPD or asthmatic. It gives it a little bit of higher tidal volume. And what is important is inspiratory flow rate. By the way, inspiratory flow rate has two purposes to serve here. Now, first is it gives the comfort, like lung injury part. I mean, we spoke about that. The other thing is that as the inspiratory flow rate is much faster, the expiratory, I mean, they take a deep inspiration with short period of time, so that they have ample of time to expire. So that's what we need. We said, what is our goal? The goal is to give them the time to breathe out, right? There is the problem that this patient is not able to breathe out. He is not emptying the lung. Before he is emptying, he is taking another, and he's stacking breaths. There is a constriction of bronchus or smaller airways or larger airways that is not letting the air out, right? So if you give them more time, so they will feel better. The strategy solve is more closer. Now 80 to 100 liters per minute will solve two purposes. The inspiration, which is not a problem here, it will go early, and so inspiration is early finishing, so they are finding more time for expiration, right? So what would be this is inspiratory flow rate that has a double importance, more flow, more time for expiration. So now coming to the third dial, respiratory rate. So one thing for sure, you do not ventilate with this patient like lung injury as per respiratory rate is concerned. You have to ventilate with a slower respiratory rate, because the more slow you will go, the more expiratory time you will get. The adjustment of, we breathe at a inspiratory-expiratory ratio of 1:2, sometimes 1:2.5, even 1:3 normally. So what they need is the IE ratio to be 1:4 or 1:5. So this is more physiological with them. So respiratory rate should be 8 to 10 liters per minute. All right. So adjust your IE ratio with 1:4 and 1:5. Now, point is, the patient came, severe status asthmatic, a COPD guy who is saturating 70%. We intubated them and gave them 100% oxygen. Did we do anything good for their disease pathology? No. I think we harmed them more because the foreign body in the airway is again an irritant. They have already a bronchospasm issue. Now we are creating another irritation for their bronchospasm. So basically, we did not do anything. We always forget. Once we see that the patient is connected to ventilator, started getting saturation up, and they look a little bit better. We forget about our bronchodilators. The only treatment of COPD asthma is dilators, bronchodilators. We always forget. Well, as soon as the patient gets intubated, we run away from that patient. So basically, make sure that this patient gets his scheduled nebulization at scheduled time, at least continuously till the problem is solved, right? So the bronchodilators are the key. Before talking much into ventilator, we should talk about bronchodilator part. We should remember the bronchodilator part as much as possible. So you will say, like in lung injury, we had strategies with start with 100%, then after 5 minutes to a BGA, calculate your what is the shunt fraction, and go down to 40% if it is sounding well, looking good. Now, the same strategy here also. Forget about COPD or bronchial asthma. Once they are buying a tube, you are going to sedate them, you are going to give them analgesic. How much oxygen you are going to give them? Start with 100, golden rule. Start with 100%. Do a BGA after 5-7 minutes and see their PO2. If that is very good, simply drop down to 40%. If it is very bad, drop down slowly. Okay, most of the time, as I said, that this is not an oxygenation problem. So their oxygenation is always okay most of the time, unless they have a bad pneumonia or so they are heading towards ARDS, that is a different issue. But most of the time, a pure COPD or asthma, they don't have a oxygenation issue. So give it, just have a first check that there is nothing going wrong. It has a diagnostic value also. And once you are happy with the PO2, it is too much, so drop down to 40%. Now, how much oxygen? As we said, you start with a 40%. It's not a bad point to start. Now, secondly, the third dial we are talking about now, the last dial, the oxygenation, FiO2 and PEEP dial, right? We finished with the respiratory rate 8 to 10. The last dial, okay? So, how much PEEP? For all practical purposes, those guys, those who are coming for, rescue ventilation, they are already sick and tired. So, how much PEEP you are going to give? Bottom line, put them in zero PEEP. It is in critical care world, it's called ZEEP, all right? So you can argue that they might have a auto PEEP, the alveoli, if I give a little PEEP, the alveoli will stent open and there will be better gas exchange. All this bullshit. Start with zero PEEP. Okay, they have already a PEEP, all right? Don't complicate things. Don't go up, go higher in your PEEP. Keep it zero. I mean, if I can argue with all those kinds of physics and laws and all, zero PEEP never harms anybody. So the bottom line is, start with zero PEEP, all right? So, there should not be any confusion. So, you can give it 3 PEEP, 4 PEEP, whatever. I mean, I don't say that it is bad or good, but zero PEEP equally solves the problem. Now, let's troubleshoot some of the cases. You connected the sick and tired asthmatic, 22 years old, on a ventilator. You gave tidal volume of 450, respiratory rate you kept 10, and now you set your ventilator up to VGA on 40%. 30 minutes later, sisters, they call you by central paging or whatever you have, code blue types or whatever emergency call that. Doctor, your patient is collapsed. His saturation is 30, his BP is 30 by 60 or 60 by 30. And what you do? Here are some options, okay? I'm giving you some options. Call the senior. Wrong. Listen to the chest with your stethoscope. Wrong. Bring ultrasound machine or X-ray to check pneumothorax. Wrong. Check connections. Wrong. Every options if you do is wrong except one thing. What is that thing?
Disconnect from the
disconnect the patient from ventilator. So, there is this nice slide in that PowerPoint presentation which I am talking on. It will be there in the forum. There is something called a dynamic airway obstruction or air trapping or auto PEEP or whatever they say. There is a nice nice slide there, so you just have a look. You can find out from the ventilator that exact curve and the physics, whatever it is there in that slide. So basically, what happens is, you have they might require sometime 1:6 if there is severely bronchospastic. So they might go onto too much of obstruction. So each breath had stacked some 5 ml, 10 ml of breath air inside the lung, and next breath came. I mean, he has to take the next breath because the ventilator is set. All right. So each time he is trapping a little bit of air, till it gets, crosses functional residual capacity or lung capacity, till he gets a popping of his lung. Till he develops a pneumothorax. So basically, once you disconnect, you will find a sound like this. The air which is trapped, it will escape, and the pressure, everything will get corrected. The saturation will come up within 5 minutes. So this is the main understanding of ventilating a COPD or asthmatic guy. So there might be a dynamic air trapping or auto PEEP development, which can increase your work breathing, which can decrease your mixing up, increase your shunt fraction. What's not? All the badness. And lastly, it might pop the lung and might have a large pneumothorax, and patient might die because, first of all, hemodynamic also be decreased because none of the venous return will come in. So all those things are there. There is a simple mnemonic which I follow in this kind of cases. Any patient which comes, there is a sudden call that ventilator is alarming or patient has collapsed. So I think of a mnemonic called DOPES. DOPES. A patient having sudden collapse on ventilator, you just remember DOPES. First D is for disconnection, second is obstruction or kinking of the tube, third is pneumothorax, E is equipment failure, any of those, oxygenation to whatever is failing, and S is static breaths. This is S you should think as a primary cause of collapse in an obstructive or asthmatic or COPD patient or auto PEEP development. So this is it. On the show notes, I have a very nice slide for generalized, ventilation strategy when everything fails. Now, respiratory failure patient, this is, in general I'm talking. Most probably, this is what I have to say for the obstructive strategy. So, bronchodilators are the treatment, not the ventilator. The ventilator goal is to give them time to breathe. Number 3 is respiratory rate should be low and inspiratory flow rate should be high. The aim is the same, to give more time for the expiration, give them more time to breathe out, right? So, DOPES is another mnemonics: disconnection, obstruction, pneumothorax, equipment failure and static breaths. So, this is in any collapsed patient, even under anesthesia on table, you can use DOPES, it will help you. So, any sudden collapse patient on ventilator, it holds good everywhere. And now the point is, the bronchodilation is the key, and the ventilation rather has never helped, just it bought some time, or you are buying some time till your bronchodilators to work. Thanks for your attention, and just before completion, I just wanted to say 2 words about the complete, what are the new things which has come up in the, sudden, in a hypoxemic failure patient. You have done everything, still the patient is hypoxic. It is generally all good for ARDS or any kind of oxygenation failure. And let me tell you, this is the COPD and asthma are not oxygenation failure guys, they are ventilation failure guys. So, respiratory failure patient, do you follow ARDS net? Actually, suppose you followed the ARDS net, you failed, then you can go for EPRV, airway pressure release ventilation. It doesn't work, go for high frequency oscillatory ventilation. Doesn't work, go for ECMO. This is a simple strategy which is there in my brain. I think whoever is fancy about ventilation, they will understand that. And there are some ads on to ARDS nets or ECMO or high frequency ventilation. These add-ons are there for everything. They are inhaled vasodilators or proning. That's it. This is whole ventilation talk. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mehta, for your attention. I hope you guys would like it. And any questions, I will happy to take it, Mehta. We have crossed quite a bit of time. I hope we have some more time to go ahead. Okay.
I think it was a wonderful lecture, sir, and I think crossing a little bit of time is for the better, I think. So I am actually happy that we crossed the time. Okay. And sir, I did have one question. Although you covered everything very well, we had quite, I think, logical and reasonable approach to manage these patients. I just was thinking about, as you mentioned, the obstructive lung disease patients, asthma and COPD. Was just thinking about the one of the categories of COPD, this emphysematous patients. In the asthma and the chronic bronchitis patient, there is a problem in the resistance of the airway.
Okay.
But the emphysema is a little different pathophysiologically in the sense that there is less recoil force in the alveoli.
Yeah.
The expiration is again a problem, as you very well mentioned about this. But I was just thinking that in these cases, is it a good idea to go on the lower limit of the tidal volume, because tidal volume might be damaging to these patients? Do you agree? Or do you accept?
No.
Do you think there is any difference in
You are
emphysema?
absolutely right, Mehtab. What you are thinking is absolutely right. See, basically, these guys, their tidal volume is not a problem. They are a large capacity lung. The recoiling capacity, I mean, the passive outflow of gases is the problem. If you give them the time, well, it is not a golden rule that 8 ml. I mean, I would say 8, 9, 10 ml would be fine. But thing is that, they should not be trapping. When it comes to ventilation, we forget most of the time keeping them same 1:2 ratio, and we give. It is not good. They need more time. I mean, as long as whatever it is, Mehtab, as long this is what they have categorically said, that plateau pressure. Plateau pressure has to be less than 30 to prevent popping of the lung. So as long as whatever tidal volume you are giving, your plateau pressure is less than 30, and you have to recalculate time and again every 3-4 hours when you start with. Once you are satisfied that this tidal volume is reasonable, then you are golden. You are getting my point?
Yes, sir, I understand. And sir, can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Doctor.
I think Mohan wants to say something.
Yeah, Mohan.
I will ask after that.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Hello, Piyush. I have one question.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
See, the kind of patients I see in my emergency are two group of patients who come to us. One is COPD who presents with acute exacerbation without any infective cause. The cause probably is autopep.
Okay.
And the other group of patients usually come to me with some infective pathology. Let's say, for example, as you mentioned, some pneumonia forms.
Okay.
Now, particularly in those patients who have breath stacking because of autopep, what is the role of muscle relaxant? I prefer giving them a relaxant period of about 2 to 3 hours, where I try to keep tidal volume as low as possible, about 5 to 6 ml per kg, and rate. Let the PCO2 rise to about 70, 80 or 90 so. And then gradually, once you have taken out the air trapped part, then you gradually take the patient out from that muscle relaxant. Is it a nice approach, particularly in those autopep group of patients where there is breath stake and you want to take that air out?
Okay.
Because if you keep the patient paralyzed, then you can adjust even the IE ratio also. So many factors you can control with muscle relaxant.
Okay. Now, Mohan, are you done with your question?
Yes.
Now, see, basically, you have got two questions: whether autopep and muscle relaxants. Okay. Now, how do you define that? Autopep is not that a regular thing as we think. So basically, it is not that regular unless the patient is intubated. You will not be able to find out what is their autopep, which is very easy. You just see their curve, you suspect it, then you go for a expiratory hold button for 30 seconds, then you find the autopep. Okay. Now this patient, suppose if autopep you found, you are going to paralyze them. Now my advice would be if you are giving any kind of PEEP to a paralyzed patient, it is a bad idea. Okay, just remove all the PEEP, keep them on ZEEP, zero PEEP. All right. Okay. So basically, what would happen is you don't know how much is their auto PEEP. If your PEEP is more than their auto PEEP, it will add to their auto PEEP, right? So people say 75% of the auto PEEP. It's all crap. You will not be able to calculate what is the 75% of which alveoli. What you are getting is, the auto PEEP of some group of alveoli as an average. Some alveoli might be 3, some alveoli might be 5, some alveoli auto PEEP might be different, It's so basically what I would say, you paralyze them, no problem, they are exhausted. But, in present day scenario, the paralysis is not a mandatory thing. So you can get away with paralysis if you what we do mistake in paralyzing a patient is why we need that we don't understand them. Actually, let me tell you, most of the time when we intubate a guy, we think of sedatives, right? That's what they don't
Yes.
need it. They don't need sedative. They need analgesic because first thing, if it's a plastic tube in their neck, is very very painful. And secondly, the CO2 rise in the body. What kind of feeling you get if your CO2 is 60? Now you will feel that you are drowning. The only thing that counteract is narcotics. That is the same analgesic. All right. So if you give analgesic to a COPD or asthmatic or whatever, the first primary image, you are taking care of the pain. Second, you are taking care of their drowning feeling, which is very bad. That is why they are suffocating. All right. So it will work as a twofold. And once you give them a very good amount of narcotics, then you are golden. So you are solving the two things. They don't probably need sedatives. Yes, you can add little bit of propofol or Versate or Dormicam, but what they need is narcotics, morphine. So if you give morphine, if it is not an argument or not a confusion that if you keep a patient out of muscle relaxant, the chances of developing autopip is less, right?
Yes.
So basically,
One more question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Dr. Piyush, before Dr. Mohan asks the question, I think someone's speakers are on, which is causing problem in the voice. I think we need to use the headphones. I don't know.
No, actually, I think Mohan is not habituated. Most probably, he would be having this. Anyways, we can almost. I think Mehtab. We can keep those questions of Mohan for forum, Mohan. Actually, if it is pretty long, people may not like it. And Mehtab, if you have a question, you can go ahead. We stop it. Actually, we are crossing some good amount of time.
I understand, sir. No, I just wanted to give to ask you one question because I've seen in some people, like you said, we need this inspiratory pause to measure the plateau pressure.
Yeah.
But I've seen some people who are keeping it there. Once they put the inspiratory pause, they are keeping it there for 24, 48 hours like that. I just wanted to ask you: is it important? Is it okay to keep it there? Because as far as I understand, once you see the plateau pressure, you should remove it, and next time when you want to see the plateau pressure, you can apply it again.
No, there is something wrong. No. There is nothing. No ventilator.
I think is going to harm the patient.
No. Basically, it's a button. The ventilator goes back to its auto mode. Basically, you hold it. Some ventilators they take it 10 or 15 seconds to hold the breath at the upper limit, and they give you the alveolar pressure, that is the plateau pressure which we are worried about, and they go back to the normal ventilation mode. It's not not a good idea to hold longer than 20 seconds. I mean, where the patient is going to breathe, right? That will become a APRV type of ventilation.
What I meant was that to keep it there for 24 hours like that. Like you will keep it there for 20 seconds in one breath, but it will be there for the next breath, for the another breath.
No. This is just
for hours. That is going to harm the patient.
Yeah. This is for one breath only. I mean, this is you just find out every 2-3 hours. I mean, till you get a good idea that it is working. That's it. I mean, our goal is to keep it 30, less than 30. I mean, some Gattolini says 35. I mean, he's a good guy in ventilation. So in ARDS, not in COPD. COPD, as long as everything said and done, what I am saying is practically it's a little bit different. You will have plateau pressure issues, peak pressure issues, but only one thing you should not be bothering at all is peak pressure. It tells you nothing. Our trachea, bronchus and all, they can sustain much more than 150 without having any trauma. This plateau pressure is the pressure where the alveoli are getting stretched, right? So let it be clear that peak pressure out, plateau pressure in, and plateau pressure, no ventilator shows the plateau pressure. If you are having a volume control mode, the pressure control modes, upper limit pressure is the plateau pressure. There is no confusion about it. So in AC volume, you have to have a hold in your inspiratory flow button. For auto peep, you need to have a expiratory flow button to pressed for 20 seconds or 15 seconds, whatever the ventilation recommends. And thank you very much, Mehta, for your time, and Mohan, you too. And I hope next time we will make a little bit more interesting. And I hope that this patient, somebody told me that the PowerPoint presentation is not working. So I will try to put it again. And anything you have to say? Thank you so much, Mohan, and thank you so much, Mehtab. Bye bye.
Sir, it was before you go, sir, I have to thank you. This goes without saying that it was a wonderful lecture, and I am really thankful to you to arrange all this, take all this time and trouble to help us understand the ventilation.
Oh, my
I think this is great.
It's all for
really
all for
grateful from my heart, sir. Thank you very much.
Hey, welcome. You are welcome.
And I think that the presentation you uploaded last time is working fine with me. You were talking about the new this presentation.
Today morning I present. I have uploaded in the same thing in my file section. You will find a file on today's date, 14th. You know that. Okay. Download it. I will try to put it again once again, okay. And don't worry. And you have the recording. I have the recording. Will any of us will try to upload it.
Or we can send it to you, and sir, whichever you like.
Yeah, you send it to me or you upload it. It doesn't matter. As long as the voice is clear and we are not talking nonsense. I hope Sarji would like it. Especially he's busy in a party. Hopefully he'll like it. And,
he's joining the party, sir.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye, Mehtab.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Okay. Bye, sir. Bye.
Mohan, bye.